What is going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. I hope you're all doing very well. Grab your coffees. We've got some really exciting upcoming changes for Shadow Priest that are on the way. If you don't know, if you've been living under a very large rock, patch 10.0.5 is coming in about 2 weeks. January 24th is when it's coming. I think that's exactly 2 weeks from this reset that I'm on right now. So what's coming with that patch? There's some really big changes that are in fact on the way, and we're going to talk about them for Shadow Priest. There's a lot of changes for a lot of different specs, but Shadow Priest in particular, we're going to talk about those today. So there's a lot of things to go over, but let me just start with the big changes that are coming. There's a bunch of buffs to different spells. Most notably, it's this one, Psychic Link down here. So I want you to read this. The old Psychic Link says Mind Blast, Mind Flay, and Mind Spike. It's written wrong here, but those three spells would cleave to all targets affected by Vampiric Touch. Now, it's Mind Blast, Mind Flay, Mind Spike, and then there's three new spells. Mind Games, Void Bolt, and Void Eruption will all also cleave to targets that have Vampiric Touch on them. Very interesting. Very interesting, Zuko, you would say. I'd say that is very interesting. Because what it means is that we're going to start looking at potentially some new builds coming in for Shadow Priest. And I want to make sure that I go over sort of all the different combinations that could be possible here. Because this is pretty ridiculous how many combos I think we can actually potentially achieve. I just did a whole bunch of tests on the dummies with a whole bunch of different build combos, all revolving around Void Torrent. Now, let me just talk about a couple things here. So, number one, we're basically going to want to be shifting our builds towards Void Torrent. Why? Because it does outrageous amounts of damage, and it now will cleave with Psychic Link. You can see right here, Mind Blast, Mind Flay, Mind Spike, Mind Games, Void Bolt, Void Torrent deals 60% of their damage to all targets affected by your Vampiric Touch. That means you can basically just walk in and you can throw out a Shadow Crash. And remember, Shadow Crash is going to apply Vampiric Touch and Shadow Repain to all of our targets. Watch this. We're just going to do this here. Boom. Into a Void Torrent. Watch the damage. It's pretty insane. We're just going to calculate the damage here at the end. Psychic Link damage was 253k. The Void Torrent damage itself was 105k. So that's about 360k. All on its own. Like, this Psychic Link damage is all from one spell. That's only 5 targets. You can have 8 targets with the Shadow Crash can apply Vampiric Touch to 8 targets on its own. So you can just throw Crash into Void Torrent. It's going to splash all this damage now. It used to only do the single target damage, 105k. Now it does splash damage as well. So this is pretty insane and has some crazy implications in terms of the builds that we might want to end up doing now. Rather than just going down and getting like Yogg plus, you know, Cthulhu, like the standard build, or getting Mindbender and Inescapable Torment, we might, I think we're realistic looking at this as a build option for Mythic Plus. So how does that look, and what are some of the choices that we have to make that are important to think about? Well, there's a bunch of them. Number one, we need to start thinking about, are we going to run Void Eruption or are we going to run Dark Ascension? Remember, Psychic Link now also splashes damage from Void Bolt, which you get from Void Eruption. So this seems like an obvious choice because we can now take Void Eruption and it's going to do great burst damage on its own. It's also going to give us Void Bolt, which we can then use to do more splash damage with Psychic Link. So, very obvious choice there. However, you could take Dark Ascension instead. Why take Dark Ascension? Well, because all of Psychic Link's damage is non-channeling damage. Remember, this is your non-periodic damage. Shadow damage goes up by 25%. Psychic Link damage is non-periodic damage. So when you channel your Void Torrent into something, all of this, the channeling from Void Torrent does not get buffed by Dark Ascension, but the splash damage it's doing does get buffed by Dark Ascension. So that makes Dark Ascension very interesting. We're getting so much more Psychic Link damage now. You could buff it even further by taking Dark Ascension instead, and then you're just getting 25% more damage during these windows, right? That's the first consideration to make when you're thinking about what builds you want to put together. Do I want a Void Eruption build, or do I want a Dark Ascension build? Am I just going to buff all the Psychic Link damage, or am I going to forget about the 25% more damage to Psychic Link damage and just say, you know what, I'm going to splash my damage with my Void Bolt and splash my damage with my Void Torrent into the Psychic Link, and that's going to be enough for me. And I've got like a whole bunch of tests that I've run in a row. I'm going to show you those in a minute, so stay tuned for that. I just want to talk about some of the theory crafting part of this. That's the first big thing to think about. Number 2, Mindbender versus Malediction. This is kind of the second choice that I'm going to talk about here. Let's pretend you're not going to run Screams of the Void anymore, and you're not going to run Dark Evangelism. What's the biggest problem with Void Torrent right now? If we want to run Void Torrent, what's the biggest problem? The biggest problem is you have to get to Void Torrent. That's the biggest problem. Why is that a problem? Because it makes us have to go over here and take either Mind Melt plus Surge, or take Whispers of the Damned and get rid of Mind Melt and Surge. You have to either go this way or this way, and very likely you're going to want to go Surge of Darkness plus Mind Melt, because we're already doing Surge of Darkness in most of our builds anyway, okay? So let's pretend like you're going to go down the right side here. It means you have to take Mind Spike, you have to take Surge of Darkness, and now you have to take Mind Melt. So, okay, let's just say you've done that. Now you have one more point you got to spend here. You could spend it on one on Dark Evangelism if you want to. That's fine. Or you could try to go over here and get Puppet Master. Realistically, if I'm going to go get Void Torrent, I have to go over here. So those points are locked. But I also want to go get Mindbender. So what do I do? The best case scenario, I think, is you could go Puppet Master into Harness Shadows. Now, we're spending one extra point up here. I understand that. It's not ideal. I don't like it. I get it. But let's just say you have to do that for now. Now, you got to get Void Torrent. Plus, is it worth getting Malediction? This is the big question. This reduces the cooldown of Void Torrent by 30 seconds. So it's a 1-minute cooldown, but it can go down to 30 seconds. You saw it did about 400,000 damage or whatever on the little test that we did there. Where is it? Right here. It did about, yeah, almost, it's like 360,000 damage. I think that's without it really critting. It only crit once, so we're kind of unlucky there. But we also didn't have Dark Ascension up. So let me run this again. Well, I'll run it in a second. The point to think about here is that you can have a 1-minute Void Eruption that does about, let's call it 400,000 damage. Or, so 400,000 damage every minute. Or you can make it a 30-second cooldown and do 400,000 damage twice, so 800,000 damage every minute. Obviously, you have to invest 2 points to do it, but is that worth it? Is it worth getting an extra 400,000 damage every minute? Now, remember, the number I'm giving you right now is just on the one test that I'm doing. You have to extrapolate this. And remember that if you have 8 targets or 9 targets or however many targets you have with your Vampiric Touch on them, you're going to get more damage out of the Psychic Link. Okay, it's going to be higher with higher amounts of enemies. The question is, do you want to have a 30-second Void Torrent or a 1-minute Void Torrent? Is it worth that extra? Like, it might be worth it. And I'll look at some of the builds in a second. So you come down here. You get Void Torrent. Let's say you pick up Malediction, but you also want Mindbender. So then we go here. The last couple points probably have to be spent here, right? So this is a potential build right here. You're going to want to get Mind Devourer, and now you've got a 30-second Void Torrent. You've got an Inescapable Torment still. So you're doing kind of that build that I talked about a while ago, which is the no idle build. And it's just modified a little bit. Instead of doing Death Speaker, you're doing Void Torrent now. Okay? And it's going to look something like this. I'll just show you really quickly. Let me bring this down here for us. Okay, so we're going to start out with Dark Ascension into, like, Power Infusion, get our Mindbender out. So Dark Ascension, Shadow Crash with our Mindbender. Here we go. We're doing Mindbender stuff right now. Okay, we got a proc, so we're going to use it. Now we get another proc. We're going to use our regular Mind Seer into a Void Torrent. I know you want to use Void Torrent right away, so that was maybe a bit of a mistake there. We're doing 200k right now, sustained. Mind Games now cleaves as well. Very good. There, we've done about as many Mindbender procs as we're going to get. Maybe 1 or 2 more. Shadow Red Death. There we go. We got a couple more. Perfect. So we got a bunch of Mindbender procs out. Now, we're back into our regular rotation. I'm not going to press Halo because it, like, takes me out of combat and stuff. It's really dumb. But I would have pressed Halo there and I would be doing more damage. Just remember that kind of stuff. Now, our Void Torrent's back, so we're going to spend our Insanity because Void Torrent generates a buttload of Insanity. Look at that. We're back up to 87. We just spent it. So you can do another Mind Seer. That's one really great thing about Void Torrent is that it ends up spending a lot of, or generating a lot of Insanity for you. Okay? And this is the basic build here. Okay, now we're back into our Dark Ascension with Shadow Crash and our Mindbenders out. And we go back into our big damage here. We got a proc. Let's press Shadow Red Death here. Now our Void Torrent's coming back. We want to spend it. So let's channel our Mind Seer. Then we're going to spend our Void Torrent. It's splashing damage. Then we're back into our our Mindbender stuff keeping him going. Okay. We got a 100 insanity there. We got to spend it. And then that's it. That's it. That's the entire build right there. Okay. We're hovering 130k, basically. It'd be over 130k because I would have pressed Halo twice. So just keep that in mind, right? This is how it ends up looking now. Your Psychic Link damage is enormous because of the contributions from Mind Games is now splashing Psychic Link damage. Void Torrent is splashing Psychic Link damage, right? We don't get the Void Bolt because we're not using Void Eruption, but you get that. You get what I'm saying there. This is kind of the new way that it looks. So this build is really cool. It ends up giving you a 1-minute window like we had before. Dark Ascension plus Mindbender. That's your big 1-minute window, and you're splashing damage with Inescapable Torment. Then you also have a 30-second cooldown on Void Torrent. Now, it can make the GCDs a little bit busy. Maybe they're too busy. That's up to you guys to think about. But that's kind of one of the potential builds you could do. Okay? Now, let me just shift over. I'll show you all the potential builds that I actually ran. Plus, I'm going to show you exactly how much damage they ended up doing. We'll just start with this one. Let me go over here. Okay. So here's the first set that I'm going to look at for you. Let me see if I can move this over. No, I can't do that. Okay. So we've got Inescapable Torment plus Malediction. That is exactly the build I just showed you right there. It ended up doing 132k DPS for me when I tried it before. Again, Psychic Link damage is really high. Inescapable Torment damage is really high. Void Torrent damage is right there. Now, let's shift over. I did a Malediction plus Idol of N'Zoth, which is right below Malediction. That is the Echoing Void damage, the splash damage that nobody's been taking for a while, plus Idol of Yogg down in the middle. So I still had my... I actually didn't have Mindbender at all in this one. I didn't even have Mindbender, I don't think, at all. I had to get rid of him in order to pick up N'Zoth and Yogg. Actually, no, I think I had Mindbender. I just didn't have Inescapable Torment damage. So just keep that in mind, okay? But I think from Beyond coming in, we have Echoing Void damage splashing. There is an interesting idea here. It did roughly the same amount of damage as if I had Inescapable Torment plus Malediction. Just keep in mind, this middle build here does not have Inescapable Torment splash damage. So that's the big difference there. Okay? Now, I could argue probably for Idol of N'Zoth here would be really good, I would say. Idol of Yogg-Saron's kind of whatever. It would probably get better over the course of a dungeon. These are just, really quick builds that I ran. Then I tried Screams of the Void plus Cthulhu. The big issue with Screams of the Void plus Cthulhu, let me just bring you back to the gameplay for a second. I just want to make sure that I'm really clear about this. The issue with Cthulhu is this. You have to now go over and get Void Torrent. Let's say you don't even get Malediction. How are you going to pick up Screams of the Void and Cthulhu without sacking something somewhere else? Also, you can't get Dark Evangelism if you want to also get Mindbender, right? You have to go over here now to get Void Torrent. That's locked in. So now you can't pick up these middle towns, which are so important for the Screams of the Void build. You want to get Dark Evangelism. Really, really want to get that. So then you probably have to do what? You have to go like this, right? Oh, no, not that speaker. It's something... Oh, I can't even do it now. I'd have to go here, and then I can't get Cthulhu. So the ability to pick up Dark Evangelism is now kind of in jeopardy. This whole Screams of the Void build with Idol of Cthulhu is in jeopardy if you want to run with the new Void Torrent. You don't have to, of course. I'm just saying, because of the points you have to invest over here, getting down to Cthulhu is almost impossible now, unless you sack 1 point in Devourer, or something like... It could look something like this, if you really, really have to get the Dark Evangelism towns. Okay, just keep that in mind, that whole build with Cthulhu is kind of difficult to pull off now. So the Screams of the Void build was the lowest DPS I did of any of the builds, I think. And again, I have to work on this a little bit more, but the sense that I'm getting right now is that if you want to get this new... If you want to really take Void Torrent and get it to its max, you're going to have to sack the old Screams of the Void plus Cthulhu build. It's just the way it's going to be. Okay? Let's look at these other builds that I tried. Now we move over. Those are like the Dark Ascension builds. Instead, I tried Void Eruption with Idol of Yogg-Saron and Idol of Yasarj. So the Idol of Yasarj is, of course, below Mindbender, and Idol of Yogg-Saron's right down the middle. So those are the two idols that I picked, and I had Void Eruption this time. So Psychic Link damage was still really high, Mind Sphere damage, and my dots were ticking harder. I think I don't know if I had Dark Evangelism for that. I don't think I did. But Inescapable Torment is still doing... Oops, sorry. Oh, that's actually not bad. Inescapable Torment is still doing lots of damage. Let's go a little bit lower there. Mind Spike's doing damage. It actually looks just ugly now. I'm so sorry, guys. But you can see that the damage overall is pretty high. 140k DPS, probably the highest build that I did. Okay. Then in the middle here, I tried Death Speaker plus Inescapable plus Malediction plus Pain of Death. So I tried to incorporate Death Speaker plus the Malediction. So I have a 30-second Void Torrent here. Plus, I've got Death Speaker and Pain of Death. It didn't work very well. That's something I'm going to have to work with. It was one of the lower ones for sure. It wasn't as low as the Cthulhu stuff, but it was definitely lower than the other builds that I tried. Finally, I tried a Cthulhu. Was it Cthulhu? Oh, yeah. I tried Cthulhu plus Yogg plus Mind Flay Insanity, and I didn't have any Mindbender at all, and I got 140k DPS. So that was really interesting. Let me show you that build really quickly here, what it looked like in game. This was a 1 point in Void Torrent, and then we went all the way down to Yogg, and we just got rid of Mindbender. So we went Insanity, Screams, and I think I got rid of these points. This is the only way you can get rid of these points over here, is if you don't take Mindbender at all. Okay, so now we're not taking Mindbender at all, and I ran this build. I didn't even use Mind Flay Insanity, because I didn't... I got a lot of procs on, you know, I mean, I'm in AoE, but like obviously, so it's hard to sort of completely judge this build, but you could use this in Mythic Plus and you would get the extra Mind Flay Insanity damage on to single target fights. And Mind Flay Insanity did get buffed a little bit. Mind Flay itself got buffed. Okay, so let me look at this build really quick. Let me show you. This is with Void Eruption, right? Yeah, I had Void Bolt. Let me just switch this really quickly. Okay. So this is an interesting pivot into how you might want to make Cthulhu work now. If you want to run the Cthulhu build still, I think you have to get rid of the... So we're not doing Inescapable Torment damage at all anymore. I actually have friggin' Shadow Fiend. I haven't had Shadow Fiend in a long-ass time. So let's see how this works. So we're going to start it with a Shadow Crash plus our Fiend and our Power Infusion. And then we're just going to get right into Void Eruption because we don't need to, like, worry about getting the Inescapable Torment procs, okay? So it's going to be like this. Okay, Mindbender goes out. We go. We'll go like this. And I'm going to do right into my Void Torrent. And we'll do our Void Bolt. I shouldn't ever leave Void Bolt on cooldown. I'm really sorry about that. Here we go. I'll do better. Void Bolt again on cooldown. And then we get our Mind Seer back. And our Void Bolt's back. Let's press it. Got a proc. You can see we're doing lots of damage in this window here. Unfortunately, I can't press Halo once again. I would love to, but I can't. Our this is back. Our Shadow Crash. Every Void Bolt, you have to press every Void Bolt that comes up. You got to press it. Okay, we're out of Void form now, and our damage was pretty high there. Even without Inescapable Torment, our damage was quite high. I'm just pressing Mind Blast because I'm an absolute idiot. I'm sorry about that. Okay, we're gonna do Mind Games. Remember, Mind Games splashes now. Very important to press it. Then we're just filling here. We're trying to get our procs on Mind Seer, and we got one there, which is really good. Now, our Void Torrent is coming back. Let's make sure we get that ready to go. There we go. I don't want to have too much... I'm going to actually use another Mind Seer to get rid of my Insanity, because, again, Void Torrent generates so much Insanity, I don't want to overcap. I want to be really careful about that. We're still hovering like 150k, 145k, right? And I'm not even playing this perfectly. So, again, this did a lot of damage, actually. Watch this Mind Games come down. Watch my damage. Mind Games does so much damage now. That splash is crazy. But there you go. That is the build. The damage is gonna go down now. But that's like, I had 140k. That's what I showed you on the chart there. This was actually probably over 140k. Imagine if I could have pressed Halo there, right? So this is, I think, the newest iteration of the Cthulhu build that could work. You're gonna pivot over here and take Void Torrent. You're still going to get Dark Evangelism. You have Insanity for single target bosses in Mythic Plus, and you have your Cthulhu stuff for all the lasers coming out of there. Like, it's the exact same. You're just not getting any Mindbender stuff anymore at all, and it sounds insane to say that, but it's actually, I think it's possible. You're sacking a lot of the Insanity generation that Mindbender would give you, but you're getting it with Void Torrent. Void Torrent gives you 60 Insanity, so as long as you don't waste the Insanity that you're getting from Void Torrent, you're not really missing it from Mindbender. Does that make sense? That's kind of the important thing to think about there. Let me try one more build for you. I think I want to get Malediction, and I want to get Idol of N'Zoth. And I want to go Mindbender. Is that the only thing I can do? Yeah, we get rid of Yogg. I think we go 1 point in Inescapable. This is a build that I wanted to try here. So, oh yeah, and we're going to get Dark Ascension. Let me switch that. There we go. Let's get Dark Ascension as well. So this is the other interesting build that I really wanted to try again. I think it's really interesting. So this is going to include the Idol of N'Zoth, something we haven't seen in a very, very long time. I don't think this is potentially as strong as the Cthulhu build I was just showing you, but it's something. It's something interesting, and I want to make sure that we talk about it. So let's try it here. We're going to have PI plus arm. Now we're back to regular Mindbender stuff. We're missing 1 point in Inescapable. You could maybe go 1 point out of Mind Devour and go into Inescapable. You could alternate those two. I don't know. This is just something I'm testing, okay? It's just something we're looking at. So here we go. Let's try this again. Dark Ascension into Shadow Crash, and then we go, go, go. Okay. There we go. Let's get our procs out. Okay, we got a proc on Seer. Now we're going to press Mind Seer again because we're almost full into a Void Torrent. We're going to be back to full again. Back to full right there. Let's try to Mind Games out of this to get the splash going. Then we'll do our Mind Spikes. We're sitting at about 190k right now. We're going to start to dip a little bit here because we're out of our window. This is where the Cthulhu build is better. The Void Eruption build is better because it's really got a lot of damage with the Void Bolt there. But we're getting splash damage from Idol of N'Zoth. Our Void Torrent is back. This is the 30-second Void Torrent instead of the 1-minute Void Torrent. It's so critical that you use the Void Torrent on cooldown because it really benefits you a lot. And basically, every other Void Torrent will fit into a Dark Ascension window. This is pretty cool. I kind of like this style. Okay, so now we're going back into our Dark Ascension. Here we go. Dark Ascension, Mindbender. There we go. Let's get the splash damage going. Reapply our dots. Shadow or Death. I screwed up right there. There we go. We're going to go Mind Seer. And we have our Void Torrent back again. 30-second Void Torrent back again. This is inside the Dark Ascension window, so it's doing a lot more damage. So every 30 seconds, you get that big bump of Void Torrent damage that splashes and does a lot of extra single target damage, too. This is what's really cool about Void Torrent now, is that it's also going to do substantial single target damage for you. So I think there's a really good reason to take it, just generally. It's always feels like a strong thing to take because it's got the single target and now the AoE flex going on as well. One more Mind Seer into one more Void Torrent, and that's the end of that right there. You can see lots of damage splashing around, okay? So again, that's at about 140k. That is 140k right there. Exactly the same as the Cthulhu build I just tried. And again, this is dependent on procs. I got a lot of Mind Seer procs there, but look at Echoing Void. Not bad at all. Almost 7.5% of our damage was Echoing Void. Nothing wrong with that at all, guys. So there is something here. There is something here to potentially, if you're going to go all the way down and get Void Torrent, maybe you want to go get Idol of N'Zoth as well. There's a potential Cthulhu build where you just dump Mindbender altogether and you can pick up the Dark Evangelism stuff that you're looking for, which is really, really cool. You would go Insanity into this, down here. So, there's this build. There's the N'Zoth build. There might be a Death Speaker build that I can work on, but I doubt it. One thing is for sure, you have to come over here and take Void Torrent. It's just about what do you want to do for the rest of your talents here. And it's really important to remember, Void Torrent is insane single target damage. It's now insane AoE damage with Psychic Link, and it's an insane insanity generator. It's insane. It generates so much insanity for you that you might not have to take Mindbender. So try to open your mind to the possibilities of what this might actually be able to give you. So very, very cool stuff. I'm excited for Shadow Priest in 10.05. All these changes that are coming are happening in 2 weeks. 2 weeks' time, guys. We're going to be getting this January 24th. So get ready. This is going to be really cool. I think there's tons of build opportunities. Void Eruption builds, Dark Ascension builds, some Void Torrent builds with Malediction, some without, some Cthulhu, a different iteration on Cthulhu now than we had before. I think it's very exciting, and Shadow Priest is looking really, really cool in 10.05. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think we're going to get a swath of new builds for Shadow Priest? I would love to hear from you all down in those comments. Thank you so much again for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.